Okay, guys, let's go over a little review over the vertical and horizontal movements that we talked about today in class. So first of all, with vertical, we know it's vertical when you have an equation that looks like this. So no parentheses at all. You know for sure you're talking about vertical. Now, when I look at that number, remember I'm looking at this A value to decide what happens. So if A is greater than 1, or if A is smaller than -1, it's going to be a stretch. Now that means things like y equals 5x squared, y equals -17x squared, y equals 7 over 5x squared. All of these would be considered to be a vertical stretch because I'm looking at just this number right here to determine that. Now, honestly, 5 fits into this. It's bigger than 1. -17 means that A is smaller than -1. 7 over 5 here, if I were to take that and make it a decimal, I would be 1 point something. And so when I do that again, that would fit here. So this is stretch. So now if we talk about the other A values, if A is somehow between 0 and 1, or -1 and 0, it's going to fit in this category for a shrink. So an idea of a shrink would be y equals 0.7x squared. Y equals -1/9 x squared. Or y equals -0.3 x squared. So again, I'm focused on this A value, which would be these numbers. 0.7 means that's between 0 and 1. -1 over 9 is going to be between -1 and 0. And -0.3 is again going to be between -1 and 0. So you should be able to look at the equations and tell if it's vertical and then if it's a shrink or if it's a stretch. Okay, the other one that we talked about today is horizontal. With horizontal, again, we're going to focus on the A values. So if A is between, let's back up for a minute. If I know it's horizontal, it has to have parentheses around it. So the A and the X are both in the parentheses. Then I'm going to focus on the A value. So if A is between 0 and 1, or -1 and 0, then I know for horizontal, this is going to be a stretch. So if I have y equals 1/5 x inside of there and then the squared on the outside, or y equals -0.5 x and then squared, or y equals -0.9 x squared, all of those would work. Now again, remember, I'm focused on this value. That's my A value. So if I'm looking at this one, if it is 1/5, that means it's between 0 and 1. It's -0.5 or -0.9. Those are between -1 and 0. So this would fit into the stretch. Okay, now, if my A value is bigger than 1 or smaller than -1, then it's going to be a shrink. So if I have y equals 7x squared, Or I have y equals negative 110x and then squared. Or y equals 9 over 7 then x squared. Remember, I am focused on this number for the a value. So if it's 7, it's bigger than 1. Negative 110 is smaller than negative 1. 9 over 7 is going to be bigger than 1. So those would all be a shrink. Okay, go over your foldable from today, and this will be your warm-up for tomorrow.